And here we are. Yes, that was very intentional. I am an agent of chaos. Fear me. Mwahahaha. Wait, no. I'm probably thinking of that stupid butterfly that gives every Kirby fan heart attacks. Yeah, sorry. This is Ebmock. This is part 2 in the series. I'm gonna be doing some changes for how I'm doing this video, like not cutting out stuttering or jump cuts because I want to be authentic. That I'm way behind on release. First video was planned to be out by end of October, not early to mid-January at the time of writing that. Though I will say, this video will be on locations and the dimensions therein. However, I shall not be doing the anime because that is an entirely different beast, and I'm mostly focused on the games. Not saying the anime is bad, not saying it's good, just saying it's different. I also probably won't be going over the Kirby Clash games, as I don't want to spend even more time that I could be doing getting this project done on time. I'm doing research for 2 games where it's unclear if they are the same events or different events, or if they're even the same universe or not. I'm also not going to be going over what-if modes, as they're more like timelines than universes. This is definitely not a realization I had when writing this script, and it's not something I totally forgot about when writing. Shut up. It's going to happen in the events video. I'm going to be going over each dimension one at a time, then the locations within the dimension, before going to the next one. I might also brush over some important events at the locations that might have been relevant. I shall start off by going over how to travel between dimensions. There's the dimension mirror, which you use to go to the mirror world, or mirror dimension, whatever you want to call it. Dimensional rifts, which usually seem to lead to another dimension, and created by everything else in this section. The Lore Star Cutter, which I shall get to a bit in artifacts video. They can also be created by Elphalin / Fectoforgos / Fectoelphalis. Yes, they're all sort of the same character, but not. That's for the character video. Then there's the Clockwork stars, at least only really seen though when granting wishes. Then there's, apparently in Returned Dreamland, the rifts, if it's in the levels, are created by Kirby using the super abilities or whatever. Magulor, with the help of the Master Crown, is able to create the rifts, possibly seen to be able to be done by rituals from Highness, but that's in the what-if mode of Star Allies. The attacks of Galactonite, one of those attacks has him firing a beam of energy visually and literally made of another dimension. Not energy from it, made of, is the best way I can describe it. And then Parallel Nightmare from the Kirby Clash games. Next up, here are some locations where it's like, is this its own dimension, or does it exist in the main universe? Because of because of either lack of information or conflicting source of information. Like Seventopia. Seemed to be made by Glacia with the drained colors of Planet Popstar when they were possessed by Dark Crafter, one world per color of the rainbow, or section, world of rainbow curse. It's different sections. Or Halcandra, former location of the ancients, has many artifacts protected by Landia. We only see one, the Master Crown, being protected by them. Now, Magolor claims it's in another dimension right before he brings Kirby and Co. there. However, this was when is still sort of lying to them to try and defeat Landia so we could get the Master Crown. So might have been lying about that. Then there's Merry Magaland, an apology theme park from Magalore that he made to apologize to Kirby and friends after the whole mess involving him. Seems to be conflicting evidence of whether or not it's in its own dimension or not. And the world of Dracia, or just basically the entire setting, what have you, of Canvas Curse. Okay, so I forgot that I was doing a bit of Kirby Clash just for what that's relevant to the main timeline. However, Magalore arrived there after the Magalore epilogue in Return Dreamland Deluxe. Return to Dreamland Deluxe, sorry. Has a counterpart to the Dimension Mirror called the Black Mirror. Might be sequel or separate. One might take place after the other with similar or events, or it might just be separate versions. They do have many characters, but characters who are similar and different. Some basically the same, like Bandana Waddle Dee. Others, like Taranza, oh boy, are they different! And that's all I'm going to get into, because I have a bunch of time that I don't want to lose to get this done, and I have a sanity to keep intact. Now, to get to that confusingly named Another Dimension, or in Japanese, Another Dimension Road, or the Interdimensional Tunnel, which actually seems like a better description of the place. Paused for a sip of water. Japanese translations, because I'm using those, state that it's beyond time and space. It's only really inhabitants that are notable, so to speak, are sphere doomers. Actually, really only place I can define as notable habitants that aren't getting into super plot. However, it seems to be connected to the main dimension or universe that Kirby takes place in, as it has sections that seem to resemble locations from Dreamland with washed out or gray color scheme, like big noir film, unless it's the remake where it's muted tones, and seems to have like ethereal energy walls chasing him. Yeah, it's weird. And also then in other places of Another Dimension, it seems to have like glowing yellow ethereal blocky ground, and does seem to have elemental versions of the various beings in Dreamland. Now, notably, it contained fruit fragments for the artifact video. Held the Jamba Heart and Heart Spears temporarily, and maybe the treasure roads from Forgotten Land took place in Another Dimension with their rare stones. Maybe it's hard to tell. Also, there is notably one specific important location within Another Dimension called the Ethereal Altar, which is basically where Magalore stored the fruit fragments he had gathered. Fruit fragments. I might have almost accidentally said something not okay. Oops. Anyway, for the mirror world / mirror dimension, it's said to have mirrors that grant wishes, which are made in their reflection. However, the only mirrors we end up seeing inside it are basically used for travel, as in that sort of seems to be how you get from one place to another. In the same way you might go through a door from one room to another, except it's mirrors and it could be completely unrelated place, maybe. I think. I've not played Amazing Mirror. Maybe they are thematically connected. Maybe they're just completely different. Is specifically a counterpart to, like, the main universe. Mainly only we see Dreamland. You need the Dimension Mirror to get there. Has similar locations. Was corrupted by Dark Mind to make only sinister reflections. And don't know if that's why the counterparts only have the worst traits of the original versions being emphasized, like Shadow Kirby, who honestly just seems to be in his debut appearance more like a scaredy cat. Or in more recent appearances where he seems to be a bit more of a prankster, and like that's the dark version of Kirby with possibly like evil traits emphasized. But you've also got like Shadow D and Dark Meta Knight. Notably there is like a hub area called Rainbow Route, and seems to have an internal dimension mirror to get to where Dark Mind was, and it also the dimension mirror to get into the mirror world or dimension is notably close to Floralia, which is important for Triple Deluxe. Do not forget that. And here we are! The Forgotten Land, or New World, whatever you want to call it. From Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It is possibly where the technological ancients came from. However, notably, there is some definitely time distortion, as in, well, sure, we only saw the rift for a few seconds, but like not even a minute had passed between us seeing the and like it being visible from Kirby's perspective in the horizon, using as like a storm, to Kirby being sucked in. Yet apparently Dedede had been in there for several months before Kirby arrived, when we don't even see when it's not even open, when it seems to appear out of nowhere from Kirby's perspective, and it's not even a minute before he's sucked in. And I got a bit sidetracked doing some math calculations, and in the ending cutscene, from the frame, the portal to the Forgotten Land closes to Elfalin opening a new one is like 15 seconds. Yet apparently enough time has passed for him to recover, which going off the assumption it took like 2 weeks of recovery, that would roughly translate to a day per second. And assuming, and just due to calculations that I will not get into, that means it might have been abandoned like 10 millennium ago from the perspective of the life there. Yet it still somehow has perfectly intact buildings with a bit of grass and moss going on them. What? Also inhabited by the Beast Pack. And now there is Waddle Dee Town there from the Waldees displaced. Notably, it does have Kirby's third house, because this baby is a homeowner on 3 different planets, one of which is not even in the same dimension. It also has Colosseum, which is important for events. Noticeably, it had evidence of several different companies and had industrial and civilian sections, including an abandoned theme park. Seems to look a lot like an abandoned human society, with we never really get a look. Closest we get is this cutout for its thing in the theme park.
And here we are. Well, visitors.
Automatic language detection.
And here we are.
Yeah, so this place is the psychic dream dimension of the evil half of the dimensional chinchilla. Yes, that's canon. For the character video, I will elaborate. And yes, I did say psychic dream dimension of the evil half of the dimensional chinchilla. That is not the craziest part about it. But it's a real sentence I just said. Due to it being psychic dream dimension, mishmash of Forgotten Land. It's a mishmash of the Forgotten Land / New World locations. Notably, in it, Kirby must find the fragments of Leongar's soul. Yes, someone's soul was stolen and shattered. At least this time, the character's soul was put back. Yes, Kirby gets that dark. Anyway, this is also franchised with a villain named Yin Yarn. And then, fourth wall, because in Kirby Canvas Curse, the magic paintbrush, when Kirby touches it, is described as going through and showing up in the hands of the player. It's DS game with stylus. It means the stylus, but that means you and I are canon to Kirby lore. Trump is canon to Kirby. My gosh, how did I not think of this before? This makes stuff complicated. Now that we're at the main universe, I'm just gonna be doing this section a bit differently and just explain how I'm gonna go over it. I'm gonna be starting with the stuff in the broader universe first, then get to some of the smaller scale stuff, like planets, before eventually narrowing in on planet Popstar specifically. Also, we don't really have a name for this universe, so I'm just gonna call it George, because despite being the main universe, we don't have a name for it. Now, for the universe at large, first of all, something random that I would just want to share with y'all. In Canvas Curse, it says Josiah turned the world into a painting. Now, just as the world, unclear if it means planet Popstar or the entire universe, because it's just entire universe. Because if imagine that from the perspective of the people of the universe, just like one day, existence is a painting for no explainable reason. And then, for no explainable reason, it stops being a painting and goes back. It's like, I'm sorry, did the universe have a stroke? What? Anyway, Kirby's universe, well, there seems to be two possible names for it. Or maybe they're different galaxies, but they both seem to contain Popstar. Wait, no, but then again, Kirby leaves Popstar to trace Dark Nebula to the Gamble Galaxy. And I think about probably different dimensions, but the galaxies are Gamble Galaxy, where Kirby fights Dark Nebula, and, well, the campaign where Kirby ends up interacting with Marx is literally called Milky Way Wishes, so I don't know, but if they are the same galaxy, then maybe it's just different people or groups called the same galaxy, different things. Also is the Access Arc. It is a ship, which I guess sort of going to count as a location, as it's shown to be like Popstar-esque size. By the way, inconsistent size portrayal is par for the course of this franchise. But noticeably, it does have the office of Max Profit Haltman. Yes, that's the real name of the capitalist dude. In the European version, it's Gains Income Haltman. It's got legs/bases. I'm just gonna brush over Kirby's digitization because nobody really seems to talk about that. It's also more than just a ship or base, but that's for a later video. Boy, the trauma I'd share. There's also Bastion. Okay, well, there's like 50 or maybe 20-ish. I'm not counting them by hand. But there's also Jambandra Base, which is surrounded by Jam Bastions, possibly where the Magic Ancients were banished to, and it houses the Divine Terminus, which has the location of the Jamba Heart before Star Allies. Then there's the Hyper Zone, which is above Popstar, which is where Kirby fought Zero, and then Dark Star, which appears to be more like a shadow cloud thing in space, which is where Kirby fought Zero too. Not the anime girl, that is very different. For some of the individual planets, you've got Shiver Star. Oh yeah, by the way, just a random thought. Here's a comparison of Earth. Yeah. Now, it's unclear, like, is it a frozen Earth? Is it the main universe's counterpart to the Forgotten Land? I mean, we don't even see the Forgotten Land and beyond what's like on the surface. Well, did the ancients mess it up? Was it the Haltman Works Company? I mean, all we really know is that the inhabitants left due to cold temperature. Then there's Ripple Star. Yes, that is a heart-shaped planet. Yes, we do see it beat it, I think, once or twice. I think. It's home of magic fairy people, because, except they're probably not actually fairies because they're from a different planet. Alien fairies. They did it before Ben 10 did. It also houses the crystal guns, gem gun, crystal glock, whatever you want to call it, because the fairies are packing heat. Also, it's not really named in game. The game's just called Crystal Shards, and that's the collectibles, and they're shards of the thing, so presumably crystal. Oh, can't forget about Patchland, which one of the first things we learn about it is that it, and I quote, feels like pants. Unless you're in Europe, in which instead of feeling like pants, it feels like trousers. This is because it's a planet made of fabric, with like six or seven different areas, held together by magic yarn, and it's got yarn people. You could travel to and from Patchland via sock portals, as in, though in the Japanese version it's called the Yarn World or Country, but notably has Quilty Square, which contains a castle and Kirby's pad, because he has the part made of fabric on a different planet, despite not being able to read or write. Yet this is his second of his 3 houses. There's also Necronebula, which is the home of Necrotius and the Skull Gang. But just, also, back to Patchland for a sec. They're a planet made of fabric with people made of yarn. If it was the universe and not just Popstar that turned into a painting, imagine that for a sec. Yarn and fabric are the only materials you understand, along with beads and buttons and maybe zippers, are like the only materials you can comprehend existence being made of. And suddenly, that's not what existence is made of anymore, for no discernible reason. And then it turns back. What the frack do you think was going on in the heads of the people of Patchland when that was happening? Just like, what is happening? What is this material? What am I now? It's like, just imagine them freaking out and thinking the world's ending. Anyway, that's not my problem. Now, for Planet Popstar. Where do I start? Let's see. Planetary rings, inconsistent on the amount, and from space, it looks like the surface would be like a yellow version of the moon, and yet, somehow, on the planet's surface, it's more like Earth in terms of the environment. If you just forget about the parts that defy physics, like the natural rings on the surface with waterfalls that produce water out of nowhere, and rainbows moving like ribbons through the air and doing upside-down loop-de-loops. I don't know, maybe the planet's so full of magical energy that's just geography and nature within it just defy physics. Also, the sun and moon are sentient beings. Maybe they're Mr. Shine, Mr. Bright, these two bosses, but we don't see any limbs or facial features on the sun and moon when they seem to be fighting. We don't seem to see any facial features on the sun and moon when they're fighting, nor limbs. So probably not Mr. Shine, Mr. Bright. And even if that is the case, Kirby frickin' blew a hole in the moon, making it physically crescent-shaped. Yet somehow in triple deluxe, the moon seems perfectly intact. Maybe it's just from the angle. Maybe the moon's rotated at that point to be at an angle where it's not blown up. Sorry about the cough, by the way. They've been doing that for a bit for the past few days. I don't know, maybe Popstar's got two moons, but Superstar says the sun and moon, as if there's only one of each. And then there's Dreamland specifically. It's in the middle on its side of Popstar. Unclear if there's a space between the words dream and land. Sometimes there's no space. Sometimes there is. There's also Castle D2D, which has been destroyed and rebuilt a few times. D2D seems to have several in various locations. It's often seen on Mount D2D. Yes, that mounted D2D, because D2D's got a bit of an ego. And one location has the chest. We know what's in there, but we don't know, and D2D knew what was in there. So which just begs the question, when, how, why? I would say, who, what, where, and where, but we know those things. Not for how this thing got in the chest. Getting sidetracked. There's also the Dream Fountain in Rainbow Resort, or rather, Dream Fountains, or Fountain of Dreams, as there are actually 8 known fountains. Only one of them is on Popstar. It's just the main one. There's also the Rainbow Islands, connected by the Rainbow Bridges. Dynablade's Nest. I'm just going to briefly touch on the Halberd. It's a vehicle and location. It's a Meta Knight's ship. It was crashed and then repaired, although Fun fact, it was originally built to take over Dreamland to stop laziness. And maybe there's a connection between Nutty Noon and another dimension, as in Return Dreamland. One, you get, you're 1 second you're in Nutty Noon, you go on the Warp Star, Kirby flies off, screen transition, he's in another dimension to fight the Grand Doomer. And if the arena, we know from Forgotten Lands that in that game they call the arena the Coliseum, maybe the arena is a physical place, but it's if you want to consider that. It's physical in Forgotten Land. It's basically a boss rush mode. Mass Attack has the Po Islands. Now there's also Floralia, which is a bunch of floating islands connected by the Dreamstock, formerly ruled by Sectonia. Don't know who rules it now. People of the sky seem to be both Dreamlandians and the civilians seem to be the people of the sky and some members of Dreamland. Oh, did I mention the floating islands were above Dreamland? I forget if I mentioned they're connected by the Dreamstock. Due to its remote location, when the Haltman Works Company came by, they were unaffected. However, the islands are connected to each other and Dreamland through the Dreamstock, which also grows miracle fruit. I'm not going to go into the back. Right, no, the seed was dumped by people of the sky, for reasons. Quite literally picked up Kirby's house and Dee Dee's castle literally overnight, and is still part Sectonia, as we do know that's how they got the Haltman Works Company got the DNA samples for the Sectonia clone. And therefore, the Dreamstock is therefore part corpse. I've heard of a corpse fire, but this is ridiculous. It also has the Buddy Fighters Tower from Kirby Fighters 2, and the Kirby Cafe, which is a cafe you can go to in Japan and in real life. Canonically, it's got little lore blurbs implying it exists on Popstar in universe. Along with in this lore, DDD owns a summer resort. It's located that is referred to as its location is referenced as being where summer never ends. That's it for this video. Oh, be sure to like and subscribe and ring that bell, because I kind of want to make money off of this, be able to start making money off of YouTube, because I like games. The next video will be on artifacts and their abilities and what's been going on with them. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.